Tonight, celebrations to mark Nigeria's 61st independence hold with colorful parades in Abuja and states across the nation. In a nationwide broadcast, the president reaffirms faith in the continued existence of the country as one entity and his administration's resolve to overcome current challenges. As the quest for a stronger nation continues, speakers at the 16th edition of the platform seek greater emphasis on knowledge-based economy, as well as more citizen participation in government. And results of an interim clinical trial indicates that an experimental drug for COVID-19 reduces the risk of hospitalization or death by about half. Plus, more international news from our London studio. You get to see Tenny now.
On business news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari affirms his administration's commitment to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years.
On sports news tonight, Dutch tactician Ronald Koeman prepares Barcelona for massive clash against Atletico Madrid amid reports that he is about to get sacked as manager.
And from the nation's capital, prominent Nigerians, including former chairman of INEC, Professor Atahiru Jega, weigh in on how to move the country forward, say electronic transmission of results key to enhancing electoral process and governance in Nigeria.
Nigeria is 61 years today. That's since the country gained independence from Britain. And the nation is commemorating the day with activities across the country. When Nigeria became an independent country within the Commonwealth on October the 1st, 1960, initially known as the Federation of Nigeria. In 1963, the Constitution was amended and the country was declared the Federal Republic of Nigeria, with Nnamdi Azikiwe, who was previously referred to as Governor General, becoming the first president. Independence Day is declared by the government as an official national holiday observed by the public sector and most private businesses. Now, events marking the anniversary kicked off with a nationwide broadcast by the president, who said that high-profile individuals, including a member of the National Assembly, are financing secessionist leaders such as Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Adeyemo, otherwise called Sunday Igboho. President Muhammadu Buhari noted that his administration is vigorously pursuing the financiers, whom he did not name, adding that his government will continue to work on dialogue-based solutions to address legitimate grievances. His speech also touched on the administration's efforts in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic, boosting agriculture, and resolving the Twitter matter.
In the face of challenges confronting the country, President Muhammadu Buhari used the occasion of the nation's 61st independence anniversary to rally Nigerians to have a positive outlook and determination to make Nigeria a peaceful and prosperous nation.
Through words or action.
In the broadcast, he tries to highlight some of the achievements of his administration in infrastructure development while directing the Ministry of Agriculture to address the looming food crisis in the country.
As our food production capacity has increased, food prices have been going up due to artificial shortages created by middlemen who have been buying and hoarding these essential commodities for profiteering. To address this, I am hereby directing the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development to rehabilitate the National Food Reserve Agency and also work with security agencies, the Nigerian Commodity Exchange, and the National Assembly to find a lasting solution to these disruptive and unpatriotic hoarding activities.
This week, the National Assembly asked the president to take steps to address the security situation in the country, especially the activities of bandits. But President Buhari is concerned about the high-profile Nigerians behind some secessionists.
We shall continue to work on dialogue-based solutions to address legitimate grievances, but we remain ready to take decisive actions against secessionist agitators and their sponsors who threaten our national security. The recent arrests of Nnamdi Kanu and Sunday Adeyemo and the ongoing investigations being conducted have revealed certain high-profile financiers behind these individuals. We are vigorously pursuing these financiers, including one identified as a serving member of the National Assembly.
Expressing his disappointment on the global distribution of the COVID-19 vaccine, President Buhari unveils plans to begin local production of vaccines in Nigeria.
As we wish to source vaccine for our immediate needs, we shall invest more to support our pharmaceutical and research agencies to come up with ideas for locally developed vaccines. Accordingly, I have directed the Ministries of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Health, Education, Science and Technology to work with Nigerian and international pharmaceutical companies and research organizations to enhance Nigeria's domestic pharmaceutical capacity.
The president also explains the conditions for lifting the ban on the microblogging site Twitter.
Following the suspension of Twitter operations, Twitter Incorporated reached out to the federal government of Nigeria to resolve the impasse. Following the extensive engagements, the issues are being addressed, and I have directed that the suspension be lifted, but only if the conditions are met to allow our citizens continue to use the platform.
President Buhari remains confident that his administration's target of lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years is achievable, in spite of the high inflation rate and rising unemployment figure.
And right after his speech, the president headed for the Eagle Square, also in Abuja, for the Independence Day parade. President Buhari observed march past performed by members of the armed forces, police, and other paramilitary agencies. The event was also witnessed by service as well as security chiefs and other top government officials.
Reviewing Officer, President Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR.
Nigeria at 61 is coming at a time the country is dealing with high levels of insecurity across the country, calls for self-determination, and an economy trying to recover from multiple contractions in the past year.
The Honorable Minister of Defense, Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory.
President Muhammadu Buhari has been in the eye of the storm in recent times. However, this has not put a damper on today's events.
Laid out a vision that the many nations and ethnicities north and south of the Niger, 300 languages or more, differing.
The crowd is treated to a march past by the armed forces.
Generally, saluting is done, using hand, is done, using hand, sword, colors, small arms, and fire.
The police and paramilitary organizations.
1989, he hails from Cross River State.
All members and the organized labor.
Public administration from National State University, was posted to the Nigerian Army Intelligence Corps and served in 3 Division Nigerian Army.
Excitement as they make their
cultural displays and acrobatics to the delight of the guests as the president poses for a picture with the dancers. The president signs the Independence Register, after which the parade gives 3 hearty cheers. Then the artillery volleys are fired. Today's Independence Day celebration is the climax of a series of events aimed at instilling in Nigerians a sense of unity, patriotism, and hope in the country's future. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Well, other events to mark the day also took place across the state of the country, including Lagos, where Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu assured residents of adequate security. He urged all hands on deck to ensure this is achieved for the benefit of every resident. The governor also called on everyone to be part of the transformation plan of making Lagos a 21st century economy.
It's the 2021 Independence Day celebrations in Lagos State. Unlike last year, when the COVID-19 pandemic did not permit such large gatherings in Lagos and other parts of the country, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu is out to celebrate with a controlled crowd at the Agege Stadium. He makes his way to inspect the Guard of Honor. Then a parade by men of the Nigeria Police Force. Nigerian Correctional Service, Nigeria Customs Service, Nigerian Immigration Service, the Federal Road Safety Corps, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, other paramilitary agencies, as well as primary and secondary school children.
NTHS is coming next.
It's been a year of challenges in the country, and Governor Sanwo-Olu is thankful for the small victories, assuring Lagosians of better security, and asks them to continue to support his government to move the state forward.
The single most pressing issue for many of you, the people of Lagos, is security and security-related issues. You have heard the alarming report in recent days and weeks of innocent Lagosians being attacked or kidnapped by criminals. Let me use this opportunity to assure you all that no stone is being left unturned in this regard to ensure that culprits are brought to justice and that, even more importantly, we are able to act preventively and nip crime and criminality in its bud.
As the epicenter of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, Lagos State fought to contain the virus, even in the midst of the third wave. While there's huge progress, the governor appeals to the public to continue to obey all safety protocols.
But I'm glad to inform you that whilst we're not completely out of it, Lagos State government has been able to stem this tide. We have overcome the third wave of the COVID-19, and we're on our way to admonish it completely from our territory and from our state.
In the meantime, the Lagos State government says it will continue to work towards making the state a 21st century economy that's beneficial to all.
In part two, after the break, we have more of Independence Day celebrations, this time in other states across the country. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. If you're just joining us, here's a recap of our major stories. Celebrations to mark Nigeria's 61st independence hold with colorful parades in Abuja and states across the country. In a nationwide broadcast, the president reaffirms faith in the continued existence of the country as one entity and his administration's resolve to overcome current challenges. As the quest for a stronger nation continues, speakers at the 16th edition of the platform seek greater emphasis on knowledge-based economy, as well as more citizen participation in government. And results of an interim clinical trial indicate that an experimental drug for COVID-19 reduces the risk of hospitalization or death by about half. Also on Independence Day celebrations, as national leaders gathered in the nation's capital, Abuja, to celebrate the nation's 61st independence anniversary, states across the country also spent a day celebrating. In the southern part of the country, Oyo, Ogun, Rivers, Imo, and Delta states had a busy day.
It's October 1st, a day to celebrate Nigeria's independence, and the entrance of Governor Dapo Abiodun into the Moshood Abiola Stadium in Abeokuta kickstarts the event in Ogun State. Weeks of practice behind the scene is brought to the fore by the military and various volunteer groups in the traditional march past. Governor Abiodun directs his speech at the youth, whom he says are integral in the nation's structure.
At this point, let me particularly call on our youth. You are the worthy inheritors of a glorious past, active participants in shaping the present and indeed the generation that owns the future. Thank you.
In Oyo State, the enthusiastic march past by students took center stage. This was followed by a walk through the Ibadan metropolis led by the secretary to the state government. She relays the governor's message to the people.
His Excellency is asking all of us, the good people of Oyo State, to put our hands together to work to make Nigeria, and in the same vein to make Oyo State better.
The celebration is taken up a notch in Delta State with drums, flute and rattles. This charming moment from this little girl to welcome the Deputy Governor leads to the march past by the police and other paramilitary agencies. In his message, passed by his deputy, Governor Okowa insists there are many reasons to celebrate.
We may not be where we hope to be, but we are certainly not where we used to be. For that, we should be thankful to God Almighty.
In Imo State, southeast Nigeria, Governor Hope Uzodinma is happy that in spite of the challenges that have assailed the nation in the last 61 years, Nigeria is still standing strong.
It is at a time like this that men and women who love their country rise in unison to defend our honor.
However, the sentiment is not shared by the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike. After the inspection and release of freedom doves, he bears his thoughts on the state of the nation.
After 61 years of independence and 22 years of unbroken democracy, our democracy is being weakened and put to enormous stress and jeopardy with the continuous violation of our constitution by the federal government and other public institutions.
Sentiments on the current state of affairs in Nigeria will surely differ, but ultimately, the wish of everyone on a day such as this is for the nation to be greater.
Well, let's now cross over to our Abuja studio for more on the news at 10 with Terry Ikumi. Terry.
Hello, Coyote. What a great day it is. Happy 61st Independence Anniversary. Now, states across northern Nigeria were also part of today's celebration of the nation's 61st independence. From Kano to Nasarawa, Adamawa and Gombe states, the leaders emphasized the need for unity among the citizens to confront the nation's challenges.
It was a colorful atmosphere at the Sani Abacha Stadium as Kano State joins the celebration of Nigeria's 61st independence celebration. The military and school children participate in the march past to the delight of onlookers, including the state governor, Alhaji Umar Ganduje. Addressing a news conference afterwards, Governor Ganduje calls on the Nigerian Governors Forum to wade into the crisis between southern and northern governors.
So I urge the chairman of Nigerian Governors Forum to convene a meeting of the Governors Forum so that we apologize to each other for making uncomplimentary remarks on each other on an issue that is solely a political party.
In Nasarawa State, Governor Abdullahi Sule used the opportunity of the occasion to caution stakeholders against hijacking the October 6th local government elections in the state.
I call on politicians to abide by the electoral rules and regulations for a hitch-free process. I also call on the security agencies to provide adequate security to support and ensure no individual, no matter who the individual is, take advantage of this election to distort the peace.
The day serves as an opportunity for Gombe State to mark 25 years of its creation. The state governor reveals his desire to make the state one of the most productive and beautiful in Nigeria.
Our administration is pursuing a rapid and wide-ranging development by addressing long-standing infrastructure deficits through aggressive spending on roads, hospitals, and healthcare facilities, schools, water projects, and urban renewal.
Staying in the northeast, Governor Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State used the occasion to remember victims of insecurity in the country.
On an occasion like this, it is important that we remember all the precious souls that have been lost in the unprecedented war of terror, kidnapping, and the menace of shellabars and farmer herders, crisis before the advent of this administration, by individuals who wanted to compel us to live our life their own ways. They will not succeed.
In Zamfara, although the celebration coincides with the 25th anniversary of the creation of the state, the government cancelled the celebration due to the rate of insecurity in the state.
As Nigerians continue to discuss ways the nation can transform into a stronger country, former chairman of the National Independence Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Attahiru Jega, believes that if Nigeria must get it right in collating electoral results, electronic transmission is the best way out. The former INEC boss also expressed worries over the citizens' lack of trust in the electoral process and the poor performances by those elected through the process. Professor Jega stated this at the National Political Summit in Abuja.
Prominent Nigerians who are members of the National Political Summit are driving this conversation that centers on nation building. The program is to commemorate Nigeria's 61st independence, and the focal point of discussion here is the importance of electronic transmission of election results to achieve transparent electoral process and quality governance.
Transmission of election results has been one of the key areas in which reckless, unpatriotic, and self-serving politicians have undermined the integrity of the Nigerian electoral process. Bringing remarkable integrity to the Nigerian electoral process, therefore, would no doubt require the jettisoning of the traditional obtuse manual transmission of results and its replacement with using appropriate technology with electronic transmission of results.
Sharing the thoughts of the former INEC chairman, senior advocate of Nigeria, Chief Mike Ozekome, blames the failure of the electoral system on Nigerians who enthrone tyranny during elections for peanuts.
Are we practicing democracy? No. At best, we are practicing electionocracy. That is my new term for it. What do I mean by electionocracy? Every 4 years, Nigerians go to the polls to carry out a ritual of so-called electing their leaders. But they never actually elect them anyway, because the leaders select themselves. They are state captors. They have captured the state.
A political economist, Professor Patu Tomi, proposes a solution. The merger of 3 political parties outside the ruling All Progressives Congress and main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party.
To project these desires, that the Committee of the NC Front for Political Parties is proposing the merger of 3 of the leading political parties outside of the PDP and APC to merge with a plan to absorb other parties and righteous wings of APC and PDP.
For many here, if Nigeria must return to its years of good governance, it must be ready to embrace the right motive of electing those that would lead them. And that can only be achieved through the right electoral process.
When the news at 10 returns, more thoughts on the efforts and strategies to building a greater nation. Plus, the president restates his administration's commitment to lifting 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. That's on Business News. Join us again. Welcome back to the news at 10. Staying with this year's independence celebration, let's talk about some thought leaders who are emphasizing the need for Nigeria to invest more in a knowledge-based economy. This time, the advice is coming from the senior pastor of the Covenant Nation and convener of the platform, Poju Oyemade, who believes that Nigeria must do its best to turn its human capital into wealth by prioritizing education for citizens. This is part of the views expressed by resource persons at the special program organized by the Covenant Nation to mark Nigeria's 61st independence anniversary in the nation's capital.
Nigeria is 61, and it's an opportunity to help chart a new course for the nation via critical conversations at the platform, a non-political and non-partisan national development fair.
Of the platform Nigeria, Pastor Poju Oyemade. Can we make that applause louder? You're welcome.
Pastor Poju Oyemade, convener of the program, takes the podium. His message is on building the nation's wealth by capitalizing on the natural provisions like land, resources, and above all, its human capital.
Nations that have developed the skills of their citizens attract material capital into those nations. They focus on the unseen, while others focus on the seen. If we really know what the wealth is, then the first thing we will look out for in this country is our educational system. The second thing we will look out for is how much specialized vocational training is going to produce highly skilled people.
She's our first speaker, so we need to encourage her.
While young Nigerians appear to be taking their skills to nations where they can put it to better use, many of those left behind are expected to take advantage of a knowledge-based economy for continued relevance.
Knowledge-based industries, almost all technology-driven, will be the biggest drivers of GDP in the future. And natural resources will continue to take a backseat. Globally, work is being redefined. Even in developed countries, about 30 to 40% of their workers will need to significantly reskill into new occupations by 2030.
For this economic expert, the fight for the soul of Nigeria is on. Digitalization must go along with decentralization of governance.
Nigeria needs to reimagine, redesign, and deliver an innovative federal system that works for all. And economics must be at the heart of it all. And to achieve the Nigeria of our dreams, we need to be able to ensure we don't rely too much on a one-size-fits-all model. Policy entrepreneurs, in the tradition of Joseph Schumpeter, the father of entrepreneurism, they are agents of creative destruction because they champion the pursuit of policy change by seeking ideas and collaborative approaches to help reduce inefficiencies.
Stability and responsibility are connected with the number 61, characters the nation strongly needs at this time, given the myriad of challenges it's presently contending with.
More on the platform. There were also calls for citizens' participation in government, leveraging opportunities provided by technology, and sustaining push for the desired changes towards a greater nation. The speakers agree that the citizens, not natural resources, are the most important ingredients for developing Nigeria in the years ahead. It's a dialogue by Nigerians from various walks of life, organized by the Covenant Nation, to reflect on Nigeria's journey since independence in 1960 and what should be done going forward.
You know, there's a number of these founders.
For many of the participants here, 61 years after independence, Nigeria's huge potentials have not been properly harnessed for national development. However, instead of dwelling on the failures of the past, they advocate the need for active citizens' participation in nation building.
Many things have happened in the past 61 years of Nigeria's history. Many good things and many bad things. History is important, but living in a romanticized past, living on past glory, perpetual fault apportioning and division is not progressive or edifying. The truth is that the journey will take first and foremost committed people, smart, hard work, tenacity, doggedness, knowledge, discipline, sacrifice, and time.
This is a very important moment as you celebrate your 61st anniversary, your 61st Independence Day. Nigeria must continue to emerge from the shackles of colonialism and resist regressing to an outdated concept of human rights. Because Nigeria is the future not just of the African continent, but the future of the world. For any democracy to succeed, everyone must belong. Everyone must have a seat at the table, because we want everybody to participate, especially the young.
For some other persons, the years ahead provide another opportunity for policymakers to invest in the citizens and leverage on the opportunities provided by the tech world to drive the needed change.
It is not the natural resource that you have. It is how the people participate with it. And when we talked earlier this morning, you see that in terms of development, if you focus on the people, then you will see the development occur, because they are the ones that will translate your natural resources into value.
What you see China doing today is not what has made China what it is today. Policies take time. We should be determined to have a say in our own destiny. We should not just be a place that history is always happening to. We should control and shape our future as much as we can as a country. There is no alternative.
The platform is a series of biannual events designed to facilitate growth, build citizens' capacity, and provoke national development. It's put together by the Covenant Nation. Meanwhile, the United States says it expects to expand her relationship with Nigeria over the coming years and advance the mutual interests of both countries. This is contained in a goodwill message by the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, in which he extends the best wishes of the government and people of the U.S. to the people of Nigeria on the nation's 61st independence anniversary. He notes that, quote, "The strong partnership between our two countries is based on our common commitment to democracy and diversity and a shared spirit of entrepreneurship," end of quote. And according to him, the U.S. will continue to support Nigeria's efforts to counter terrorism, improve health systems, strengthen democratic institutions, promote respect for human rights, and bolster economic growth. The U.S., he states, values Nigeria's leadership on African peace and security, ending the COVID-19 pandemic, and tackling climate change, among others. And that's all from the nation's capital. Business News is next with Teniola Shobawali.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thanks a lot, Terry. Welcome to Business News. President Muhammadu Buhari has affirmed his administration's commitment to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. In a nationwide television broadcast to mark the country's 61st independence anniversary, the president says he's approved an increase in the number of beneficiaries from the government's social development initiative, the Empower scheme, from 500,000 to 1 million persons.
Considering the positive impact of our social investment programs, I recently approved an increase in the number of Empower program beneficiaries from 500,000 to 1 million. Out of this, 510,000 have started the program, while the competitive selection process for onboarding the outstanding 490,000 beneficiaries is in progress. To grant increased access to credit to the most poor and vulnerable, I have directed an increase in the disbursement of government enterprise and empowerment program loans to an additional 1 million beneficiaries, laying more emphasis on the small-holding farmer through the Farmers' Money Program.
Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari speaking there. In the meantime, as Nigeria celebrates its 61st independence, the issue of the macroeconomic environment is set to remain a big challenge. Speaking on our program Business Morning, the CEO, Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprise, and the former DG LCCI, Dr. Muda Yusuf, believes there is still no clear progress or solution. He calls for urgent review of economic management through engagement and dialogue.
Issues around this macroeconomic environment are these foreign exchange issues, the depreciation, the volatility that we're experiencing, the high inflation that is going on, the issue of debt and the burden of debt, and all of that. These are very important issues because if you don't get the macroeconomic environment right, there's no way we can fix this economy. And if you don't fix the economy, some of these social problems, even including security problems, in a way are also linked to the economic problems. Because you are talking about unemployment and all of that. These folks are the investors, are the people that will create the jobs. So we are not sufficiently addressing their concerns. So I think we need to address those concerns. Secondly, we need to look at the issue of the regulatory space. The regulatory environment is such that the regulators are too obsessed with revenue. And in the process, they kill investors. They create a major disincentive to investment. And the truth is that if you create a better environment, regulatory environment for investors, invariably more wealth will be created. And the revenue that we seek to achieve will ultimately even get more revenue.
The Nigerian equities market was closed for the Independence Day celebrations, but on the global scene, it was a mixed performance for major markets. Let's take a look at the closing numbers.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial star 894 hash now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Well, thank you, Tenny. Still ahead on the news at 10, results of an interim clinical trial indicate that an experimental drug for COVID-19 reduces the risk of hospitalization or death by about half. There's more international news from our London studio. Stay with us. Interim clinical trial results suggest molnupiravir, an experimental drug for severe COVID-19, cuts the risk of hospitalization or death by about 50%. Let's now head over to our London studios, where Simon Pusey has more international news on Around the World in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Authorities in Australia have announced they will reopen their international borders from November, giving long-awaited freedoms to vaccinated citizens and their relatives.
Will be time very soon.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison has said that it was time to give Australians their lives back. Since March 2020, Australia has had some of the world's strictest border rules, even banning its own people from leaving the country. The policy has been praised for helping to suppress COVID-19, but it has also controversially separated families. Footage has been released showing Ecuadorian police trying to restore order at one of the country's largest prisons after a riot killed 118 inmates. Images show soldiers searching prison cells for weapons. Police Commander Tanya Varela explained to reporters that they were searching for those who had started the riot. Families have been gathering outside a morgue in Guayaquil to find out what has happened to their loved ones. The gang-related violence is the worst in Ecuador's history. North Korea has said it has test-fired a new anti-aircraft missile, its fourth weapons test in under a month. The latest test comes days after North Korea launched a new hypersonic missile, which is believed to have nuclear capabilities. Pyongyang says its weapons are needed for self-defense, accusing the US and South Korea of double standards. Meanwhile, South Korea has marked its 73rd Armed Forces Day with air and sea drills and a ceremony attended by President Moon Jae-in. Moon has declared that the government and the military will sternly respond to any action threatening his people's lives and safety without referring directly to North Korea. Video shows soldiers and amphibious assault vehicles, smoke shells exploding, and helicopters firing flares. US President Joe Biden has suffered a setback after Congress delayed a vote on a $1 trillion infrastructure plan.
Dollars apart. How do you bridge this gap? We're not sure.
Part of his Democratic Party refuses to move forward with the plan until Congress signs off on a separate $3.5 trillion plan on welfare and climate change. The head of the World Bank, David Malpass, has said Sudan's economic situation is gradually improving, but will require patience.
Sudan is making a transition from...
Malpass is the World Bank's first president in decades to visit Sudan, which faced extensive sanctions under former leader Bashir. Many Sudanese are struggling with poverty, shortages of medicines, and power cuts. An estimated 20,000 Sudanese people have protested in the capital Khartoum in support of a civilian-led transition to democracy after an attempted coup last week. Drone footage shows the continued lava flow into the sea on the island of La Palma. The lava from the volcano, which has been erupting for 10 days, has destroyed more than 800 buildings. On reaching the water, it cools rapidly and binds itself to the cliffside. Emergency services warned that ash thrown out from the crater was blocking sunlight and reducing visibility. Celebrations to mark the 72nd anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China have taken place in Beijing's Tiananmen Square. More than 100,000 people gathered at the square to watch the national flag being raised. China's Bei aerobatic team and unmanned aerial vehicles also gave special colourful performances. After years of controversy, Japan's Princess Mako will marry her former classmate, a commoner, on the 26th of October and give up her royal status. The couple were initially set to wed in 2018, but that was put off reportedly after accounts Komuro's family had run into financial difficulties. Their movements have been heavily covered in local media, which has caused the princess to reportedly suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder. And finally, Russia has been hosting its first royal wedding in more than a century, with aristocrats travelling from across Europe for the lavish ceremony. Grand Duke George Mikhailovich Romanov and his Italian fiancée Rebecca Virginia Betterini have said their vows at St. Isaac's Cathedral in the former imperial capital, St. Petersburg, in the presence of dozens of European royals. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel studios in Lagos.
Many thanks, Simon. Barcelona coach Ronald Koeman insists he is in the dark about his future, despite local media suggesting he will be fired after Saturday's La Liga League game at Atletico Madrid. Koeman suggests that Barca's hierarchy are showing him a lack of respect by leaking stories about his future and what might prove his final news conference as the club's coach. Man City manager Pep Guardiola believes that his duels with Liverpool counterpart Jurgen Klopp have made him a better coach as the two prepare to face off once again in the English Premier League on Sunday. Guardiola and Klopp first came up against each other 8 years ago in Germany while in charge of Bayern and Borussia Dortmund respectively before renewing their rivalry in England. And that's sports news.
Thanks a lot, Ayo. And the main news again. Celebrations to mark Nigeria's 61st independence today held with colorful parades in Abuja and states across the country. In a nationwide broadcast, the president reaffirmed his faith in the continued existence of the country as one entity. And that's the news at 10. Thank you for watching. I'm Kayode Okikilu. Good night.